and we're going to be covering Facebook advertising today. I haven't changed. I'm the same person. My contact information is the same. So if after this call you find that you have more questions that we didn't dive into enough for you, or you'd like to speak more specifically about your property, just email me or give me a call and I'll be happy to assist you. So during the call today, we're going to do an overview of Facebook advertising, kind of the types that we'll be talking about today. We'll also talk about unpaid promotions. So there may be times that we're not going to pay for an advertisement, but we still want to promote posts or promote something that's going on at the property or for the property, and we don't necessarily want to allocate budget for it. Then, of course, we'll talk about the infamous paid advertisements, how to target them, and kind of a deep dive into that. And then we'll go into a demonstration so that when you go to apply these tools, you'll actually be able to visually see what it is that you're kind of looking for. And when we close, we'll do a recap of the call. We'll talk about some of the resources that we'll discuss during this call, and we'll also talk about some recommendations that I have for you. Are there any questions before we dive in?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay. So one of the big things that we think about, especially when we're talking about potentially allocating money to something, is why. Why would we use that? Why would we use Facebook advertising or social media instead of the print advertising, direct mail marketing, email marketing, whatever the case may be that we've been using in the past? And it really boils down to three core reasons. First of all, Facebook advertising is budget friendly. You can spend anywhere from a few dollars to a few thousands of dollars, and some companies even spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on cost per click marketing on Facebook. So it is completely scalable. All of us, I'm sure at one point or another, have at the very least considered even just putting up 20 bucks of our own money just to see how something goes if we haven't done it ourselves, and I know I have. The other reason why we do Facebook advertising is because you can target so specifically. And when we really dive into it, you'll be amazed at the finite information that we can talk about people to. I want people who have this, this, and this, and you'll be able to find it. Much more of a specific targeting than is available for things like direct mail or email marketing, where the only information that you have about somebody is their address, maybe their gender and their age, but really not a whole lot beyond that. And then the other reason is because there's return on investment. Not only do we know that with a well thought out Facebook advertising campaign do we get a good return on investment when we've set our goals, but it also allows us to track very clearly the key performance indicators that determine whether or not we have met our goals, and shows us a real strong idea of what our financial return has been. So those are the three main reasons why we do Facebook advertising. And they appear in a few different ways, and when we talk about paid advertising, we'll look at these more specifically. But they appear in a number of different ways. They can appear in your timeline, both on your mobile phone and on your desktop when you're scrolling through Facebook. And in all likelihood, you've probably seen them. Actually, I guarantee you've seen them before, and you probably don't even notice that you're there, that they're there. The only thing that kind of determines whether or not it's an ad is if it says sponsored in tiny grayed out letters up in the top left corner. So on your main timeline, also on the sidebar, and then oftentimes you'll find that when you like a page, it'll either recommend other pages for you or show that somebody else that you know has liked that page as well. And those are also advertisements. If they're recommending that you like a page, that's an ad that's been targeted to you. And then another great way that we don't see very often is offers. And offers are exactly what they sound like. It would be a discount or a, kind of a giveaway for people. And you can use those in a number of different ways, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Now, the process for Facebook advertising is the same for any other type of content. So while it is special and unique, I don't want you to think that it is that special and unique. When you are doing Facebook advertising, especially if you're allocating budget to be able to do paid advertising, you really want to follow the same process we do for all of our other content generation. You really, really want to think about planning. What is the goal of this advertisement? Who is it targeted to? And then when you take the step on from that, when you're thinking about content generation, really think about the title that you're using, the copy that you want to write, the call to action that you want to use, the link you want to send them to, and the visuals that you want to associate with it. So you really want to make sure that you're getting the most creative bang for your buck. When you go through and publish it, that's fantastic, that's awesome, that stuff is done, but that's not all. You don't just want to send it out. Throughout the course of a campaign, you can monitor the performance of an ad. So if you find that you're doing really well with it and it drops off in this publishing area, you can also make on-the-fly adjustments to it. So you may pull the ad, you may change the creative on it, whatever the case may be. Now, of course, our cycle wouldn't be complete if we didn't review the analytics afterwards. You really want to be able to go to the people who gave you the money to be able to do the promotion, to be able to say, hey, look, we got 3 bookings from this, and we only spent $100, and that was at least $400 worth of revenue, so this is awesome. So you want to make sure that that same process is followed, especially for these advertisements. Now, the breakdown of a Facebook ad is slightly different than what we're used to seeing in a normal piece of content on Facebook. So it's broken down into 3 channels or 3 sections just like it normally is, but they're a little bit different. So the first section is your copy and your title. So your copy is just what it normally is. It's the concise and descriptive words that you're using to describe that promotion. And there's usually a title associated with it as well. So you want to make sure that that's clear as well, whether it's a free appetizer with dinner or stay for breakfast package or whatever the title may be. You want to make sure that that is also concise and descriptive. The second section is your visual, the image or the video that's associated with that ad. And I say image or video, but it could be images or videos. With the new carousel that's available, you can have a series of 5 photos that appear in line with one another. And that can be a really cool and interesting way to drive clicks to that particular ad. The third and final part is action. So the link that you're sending people to and the call to action that you're using. Depending on the ad that you do, you can actually select a call to action button, and that can be something like book now, get information, contact us, like this page. So you'll notice that the big part that's missing from this versus other types of content is tagging. In an advertisement, you don't need to include a hashtag or a at tag to another business page because it's very clear that it's linked with your business. So again, copy and title, visual, and action. Are there any questions about those kind of just general concepts that we talked about before we continue?
No, ma'am.
Good.
Okay, perfect. So there are a few times when we may want to use an unpaid promotion. And it can be difficult to decide, should I spend money on this or should I not? So kind of the big indicators, and these are all not set in stone. You can always change your mind about it. But some of the big reasons why you might decide not to spend money on an advertisement is when you're directing it to a non-branded site. And what I mean by that is that if you have an affiliated site, let's say your Yelp page, for instance, or you have a listing on Zomato, or you've just launched a new social media platform and you're using Instagram. When you're directing it to a site that is not your site that you own, even if it's a listing of yours, you might not want to pay to have traffic go to that other site because it just brings people away from your listing, and you don't have the potential for monetary return. Now that being said, if your Instagram launch is a big deal, or you're launching a blog on a food site or something like that, in those cases, play it by ear. It really is up to you. But generally speaking, if you're directing traffic to a non-branded site, one that you don't own, you may not want to pay for it. Another example of this from the hotel perspective or from a banquet perspective is if you're utilizing WeddingWire or The Knot. So if you're directing traffic to either of those sites, while you have the potential to gain revenue once you're out there, it's not a direct connection to the property, so you may not want to use it. The other example is driving likes to the page. So if, for instance, you're just trying to get people to like your page, you can absolutely pay for that. There is actually a specific form of advertising for that, but you may not find that that's the best way to do it. You may be just fine doing normal unpaid promotions to get people to like your page, and we'll see an example of that in just a minute. Another example is if you have an external event. So that means that it's an event that's hosted by an outside company. So let's say you are having a wedding show at the property, and it's not one that you are hosting. Maybe you're participating in it, but you're not hosting it. So it's an external event. You may not want to pay for advertising for that external event because there's another company putting it on. Another example of that would be in the restaurant if you're having like a painting with a twist event, which I know Scoozy does every now and again. It's an event hosted by an outside company that they just happen to have at Scoozy. So there's no direct revenue coming to the restaurant from that. An exception for this, of course, would be if you're hosting a wine tasting, like a tasting dinner or Easter or something like that. Even if you have an Easter bunny coming in or a wine rep coming in, even though you have external vendors there, it's still an internal event. And the final example would be if there's no booking information. So again, if you can't clearly say, this is the event, we advertised for this, and this is how much revenue we made off of it, it can be hard to prove the return. So generally, if there's no booking information, if it's not to make a reservation, to call for additional information, or whatever the case may be, it may be better for you to try, at the very least, try an unpaid promotion first. Are there any questions about those or any other examples that people have? So there are a few different ways to activate unpaid promotions. And these are going to seem really familiar because you want to treat your unpaid promotions just like you would a really high content or high caliber piece of content on your page. So in order to do an unpaid promotion, you want to follow a very clear process. You're going to set your goal. So what am I looking to do and who am I targeting it to? So if I'm looking to drive business to my not listing because I want to have more brides come in, then I know very clearly that my goal is to have clicks to my not listing, and I'm targeting it to my brides-to-be. The same is so if you have something going on for, let's say, St. Patrick's Day. I know that I'm targeting people of drinking age that are local to my area, that are going to be in town on Thursday night. So you want to make sure that you're very clear in your targeting with that. Think about value-driven content, and what I mean by that is how can you provide value for that person aside from just sharing information? So if you're thinking about this local person who's going to be in town on a Thursday night who might want to be in for St. Patrick's Day, I may be thinking of ways to wear green and not have it be stupid. I may be thinking of cool cocktails you can do. I may be thinking of a Thirsty Thursday. It's Thursday, so maybe I'm thinking of a Thirsty Thursday kind of information for them, a recipe, a dressing guide, a listing of cool things to do on St. Patrick's Day in the local area. So that is your value-driven content. And then have a clear call to action. So if you're sharing information like a drink cocktail list, make sure you have a clear call to action. If you say, for more information, check us out on our website, or for the full recipe, shoot over to our blog, or for to have us make this cocktail for you, book a reservation, or whatever the case may be. So have a clear call to action, what you'd like them to do. And with that call to action, and we've talked about this before, and I will continue to drive home the point, you want to remove as many friction points as possible. So if you're asking them to contact you and the link you share goes to the main page on your website, it doesn't help them at all because they're going to have to click around again to find a Contact Us button. So if you're asking them to contact you or to book a reservation, make sure that when they click on that link that it directly goes to whatever action you have called them to. How frustrating would it be for you to have somebody, walk into your office and say, can you make a copy of the schedule for me? And you're like, okay, do you have the schedule? And they're like, well, no, well, yes, but it's in the other office, in the file cabinet, in the calendar, in the folder marked February, in the week marked this, whatever. You have to take 17 extra steps to do it, and that can be very frustrating. And that's just a silly example of us internally. But for a guest, it can be extremely frustrating when you're asking them to do something and they can't do it. Any other questions about that?
I'm good.
Okay. So with our unpaid promotions, the layout for that falls under our usual layout. So you'll have content and copy. So your copy is your concise and descriptive verbiage that you're using. The content is a link or a photo or a video, whatever the case may be. You can use your tagging, so you're @tagging Guinness and you're hashtagging Thirsty Thursday, and your call to action. So you're asking them to click for more information or join us on St. Patrick's Day or find the full recipe on our website, whatever the case may be. Here are a couple of examples of unpaid promotions from our portfolio. And these are very recent, so if you saw the February newsletter come through, you would have seen both of these in that newsletter. The one here on the left is for the Hilton Chicago Oaklawn, and these were photos that were taken by Katie in their ballroom on her iPhone. So these are beautiful photos, but they were simply just taken framed really well, but taken on her phone and uploaded very simply to Facebook. Now, she did a lot of really awesome things in this particular post. You know right off the bat, because she's using Wedding Wednesday, that she's targeting brides-to-be. She also provides value by the menu cards that are there. So she's providing additional information about the menu cards that are there. They add personalization to any special function. She also includes a clear call to action. Call us today to see how we can cater all your needs for your upcoming events. And she uses the right tags. So she uses Chicago weddings, winter weddings, Wedding Wednesday. Now, the one thing that we discussed during their monthly call and that they agreed on is that this call to action using a phone number or an email address can be a little difficult because it's not always a clickable link. So just because you put a phone number there doesn't mean that somebody can click on it in their mobile device. So if they're scrolling through Facebook and they see this and they see the phone number, they're like, oh, I want to call them. They can't. They have to write it down and then go into their dialer or do the double tap thing and swipe back and forth between their phone and their Facebook page to be able to pull that number. So again, this is an example of you want to make sure that you're removing as many friction points as possible. So contact us with a link to their contact form on their website or to their not listing would have been potentially more helpful. Excuse me. Now here on the right-hand side, you can see a really great example by the DoubleTree in Charlottesville. So way to go, Liz, and your team over there. Their call to action, which is very clear, they wanted to promote their Facebook page. So they've asked people very explicitly to like their page by March 11th. And on Pi Day, which is March 14th, 3.14, Mark Cusick, their general manager, is going to get a pie in the face. Who doesn't want their GM to get a pie in the face? Who doesn't want a company's GM to get a pie in the face? Who doesn't say, that guy looks so endearing, I kind of want to put a pie in his face? Nobody. The answer is nobody. Everybody wants Mark to get a pie in the face. So in order to contribute to that, they're going to like the page. Now, Liz, did you guys reach your 1,000 likes over the weekend, I thought?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, though.
Well, you better figure it out because you guys got to start coming up with that banana cream pie. Pretty excited. So again, this is another example of an unpaid promotion where it has a really good visual. Again, they used really good tagging, both for hashtags and the page tags, and they have a very clear call to action. So those are examples of unpaid promotions. Are there any questions before we continue?
No, ma'am.
Not at all.
Okay, great. All right, so there are a number of different types of paid advertisements. This is not a full comprehensive. What was that?
We're 8 away still.
8 away? Oh, no. Okay, so in that case, David, you should go in and like the DoubleTree Charlottesville's page if you haven't yet.
Guess I'm going to have to.
Cool. Thanks.
Because I'm basically 8 people anyway.
Right, exactly. You count as at least 8 people.
All right.
Okay, so again, with the list of advertising, this is not a full list, but there are some that are not going to be applicable to our businesses. The best example of one that's not applicable to us is an app. So you can ask people to download or engage with your app. Now, we don't have apps, most of our hotels. Hilton has a Hilton booking app, and Marriott has a Marriott booking app, but those are both owned by Hilton and Marriott respectively, or Marriott and Hilton respectively. So we don't need to do any promotion for those. So the ones that would apply to us are boosting a post, which is taking a post you've got on your page and making more people be able to see it. Promoting a page, meaning that you're trying to drive likes to a page. A good example of ways to do a page promotion are in cases like both of yours, where you have a core page already, so you already have the Hilton Harrisburg and you already have the DoubleTree Charlottesville. And if you're promoting a new page, as a, for instance, your TJ's Tavern or 1700 and AdLib and weddings and events at Hilton and Hilton Harrisburg jobs page, you can use your main page to promote those additional pages and drive likes to the page. So that's an example. You can also send people to a website, which is what we do most frequently if we're trying to get people to go to our booking engine. You can also target people near a business, and this is really good for restaurants, especially because you're located in a hotel. So you may be able to target people that are near your business if you're trying to drive in local people. So it will automatically target, like if I'm in your hotel, sitting in bed, hungry, flipping through my Facebook page, and because you've got local targeting, your ad will pop up for me. If I'm in the local area at work and it's the afternoon and I've hit my 2 o'clock slump and I'm Facebooking to get out of it, I may come across your ad. So again, it does targeting near the business. That being said, you can also, in any of these, you can also do location-based targeting. This just specifically serves people that are within your area. You can also promote an event. So if you have an event on Facebook, like Easter, for instance, or a wine tasting dinner, you can get people to engage with your event on that social media channel. That being said, people engaging in your event on Facebook does not guarantee that they're going to make a reservation. So it's great to build excitement for an event, and it's great to potentially get some reservations, but you can't guarantee that everybody who goes from your listing to the event is going to be there. So you just bear that in mind, that you don't want to go and say, yeah, we got 700 people who are going to our event, and then only 300 people turn out, and you're like, no, well, we had 7 people registered. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to be there. The other final one is to provide an offer, and again, that would be something like a discount or a giveaway or something like that. Are there any questions about those before we continue?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So Facebook for Business, this is one of the resources that that I'll be sending out to you after this call. They have the their ad breakdown, so it's kind of just what products they offer for advertising. So it gets served to people in a few different ways. So again, we talked about that in the overview, but it appears on your mobile device in the news feed right on the main part of your page. On your desktop, it also appears in line with your news feed, and then they also appear on the right-hand side under the sponsored area. So those are just 3 major areas that you would see an ad on Facebook. And there are a few different ways that those are served to people as well. So again, if it's people who are connected with your business, the content displays in a particular way. You can see that it says here sponsored. And if it's people who are not connected with your business, it has sponsored, but it's also appearing as a suggested post. So I get these a lot based on the pages that I follow. I get them for, ironically, I was on Facebook today and I was served an ad for a Facebook advertising template. So they were paying attention to what I was doing. So you can see that it would appear as a sponsored. And then if it's somebody who's not attached to your page but knows somebody who is, it'll appear that their friend likes that page. So it gets served to people in a number of different ways. It's all very subtle is the word I was looking for. It's all very subtle. So assuming that you've got good visual and good copy, it can just seem like another post on your timeline. You might not even notice that it's there. As a matter of fact, I often don't notice when an ad has popped up. I'm like, oh, that article seems really cool. And I'm like, oh, it's a sponsored post. Awesome. One thing you'll notice here is that the visual is very prominent, and that's something to bear in mind. When you're putting your visual together, it needs to be a clear visual. The part of the reason why these become so successful and why Facebook has structured this the way that they have is that they want you to be providing valuable content to people. So if you have a photo that's just a listing of a menu or a copy of a flyer, it's not something like that would be an interruption of me going through my newsfeed. Seeing that and having that would be like, ugh, irksome. So Facebook does not want that. So you want to make sure that you're following all of the guidelines that they set out for you when you're creating these ads. Again, the paid advertising. Yes.
Sorry, can I just chime in with that?
Mm-hmm.
I posted an ad not too long ago on the AdLib page,
Mm-hmm.
and it was denied because I'm trying to get the exact percentage. They cited it for me, and they said it contained, I think, more than 20% text,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which was the number that I used. So just that specific number is one to be mindful of as you're making
And basically that just means if you have something on there that just says like, 20% off coupon or Easter brunch, that's fine. But if you have Easter brunch and, Gloria Ipsum 100 times over, that's not going to be great for anybody. So be mindful of that. Your visual is meant to be a visual. So that's that. Again, with paid advertisements, the structure is a little bit different. And when we go into our live demonstration, you'll see this very clearly. Facebook will actually guide us through this step by step. So copy and title, visual, and action. And with this visual, one of the resources that we'll touch on is the Facebook Creative Specs. This is as of 2014. It's still up to date now. So it will give you specifically the type of ad that you're looking for and then the creative specifications that they recommend. And by recommend, follow what they recommend because they're Facebook. And if they're recommending you use 90 characters, use 90 characters. They'll block you out at some point, but it's recommended. The only thing is that with the image size, choose something that's got twice the resolution, and we'll touch base on this a little bit more. So if it's recommending 1200 by 900, do 24 by 18 so that when people have, if they're using a high quality computer, that visual comes through very crisp and clear. Okay, so onwards. With paid advertisement, again, you'll see here it is broken down into those three sections that we discussed. So the title and message, the visual asset, photo or video, and the action. So again, that would be your call to action and the link that you select. And again, all this information will be available to you after the call as well, the slides as well as this specific information, which comes from the Facebook Ad Products Guide. So with targeting information, there are a number of different ways that you can target, and we'll dive into this when we go into the demonstration. We'll dive into this very specifically, but there's basic information like location and demographics. So where are you and who are you? Are you a female? Are you a male? What age are you? But then the really fun stuff starts, and you can track people by behaviors, connections, and custom audiences. So behaviors are things like pages that you like, interests that you have, and we'll dive a little bit more into that because Facebook has gotten much better about interests. Like shopping behaviors you have. So you can even, using Facebook's affiliates, you can even target actions like shops online for clothes and things like that. So that information is available to you. And you can also choose things like has an upcoming birthday or whatever the case may be. So again, those are things that you don't typically have when you're doing things like print marketing because you don't know when people have an upcoming birthday. And if you have an ad in a magazine targeting people with upcoming birthdays, it might not work because there's only a small percentage of people who might have an upcoming birthday. And then you can also choose connections. So again, for both of your examples with 1700 and AdLib and with TJ's, you can, as long as you also manage the other page, you can select people who are already connected to that business. So Liz, in your case, you already manage the Doubletree Charlottesville page, so when we open a TJ's Tavern page, you'll be able to target people that are connected to the hotel page. And this is nice because, especially when you're doing an offer, you may want to select people that are already connected to your business. And custom audiences is really cool. Custom audiences allows you to target things on Facebook to people who aren't connected with you necessarily on Facebook. So as an example, if you have a newsletter list, and I know that at the Hilton in Harrisburg you have an extensive email list of Hill Society members and people who used to follow the Sheaf and all this other stuff, you probably have that list somewhere. You can actually create an ad and target it to people whose email addresses match those on your list. So you upload a list to Facebook, you create your ad, and it will target it to all of those people. And while that seems crazy because you wonder, is their email address going to be attached to their page, the average rate of what Facebook will find is over 70%, which is awesome. So you're only leaving just a small percentage of people who might not have that email address associated with their Facebook page, and you're getting it out to them. So that's a super cool way to kind of bridge the gap between a newsletter and a social media presence as well. Any questions about that?
No, but that's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's super cool. So the next kind of part of this is that Facebook is broken down, or the ads are broken down into a hierarchy. So there's an overall campaign, which is your main goal. So that would be Easter. You have an Easter campaign. You have a happy hour campaign, whatever the case may be. Underneath that overall campaign, you have an ad set. And that basically is a breakdown of your audience. So you may have Easter that's targeted to families, and you may have Easter that's targeted to kids, for instance, or whatever the case may be. You may just have them targeted differently. You may have Mother's Day targeted to mothers and Mother's Day targeted to fathers. So those audiences would be different ad sets. And then within each of those, you'll have specific advertisements. So Mother's Day targeted to mothers, I may have 2 or 3 different pieces of creative that I'm utilizing. So that ad is the specific post. And if you're doing an ad set, so I'm targeting to mothers for Mother's Day, you want to keep your ads pretty similar. So underneath that, I may want to have the same call to action, but maybe a little bit different verbiage, or maybe the same call to action and the same verbiage in a different photo, or vice versa. Maybe I have the same photo and different verbiage or a different call to action. It allows you to do a little A/B testing, which is basically saying which worked better, this one or this one. And it will also make sure that people don't get ad fatigue, meaning that they're seeing the same ad over and over and over again. Are there any questions about that?
No, good.
Okay. So there are a few advertising resources that we will talk about, and I'll show you some of them now, and one of them, which is Canva. Of course, you hear me talk about all the time, and we do have a Canva training coming up either at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. So the Facebook advertising resources that we'll talk about are the Facebook Marketing Bible. I'm going to try and get an updated version of this. It hasn't changed tons. Most of their parameters are pretty much the same, but I'm going to try to get the updated version of this. I hadn't previously been able to find it, so I'm going to see what I can do. The Facebook Creative Specs, and again, this works perfectly in conjunction with Canva, because if Canva doesn't have a custom size for it, you can go in and create a custom size. The Facebook Ads Product Guide, which gives you kind of specific information about how they're served to people. And then our friends at HubSpot also have a guide about creating epic Facebook ads. So it's an intermediate guide. It's not like an introductory thing. This is assuming that you've been through our training today and have an understanding of Facebook, and this will kind of give you more of a deep dive into how you can engage with those Facebook ads more effectively. And then, of course, Canva, which you all know I love like crazy. So, all right, without further ado, are there any other questions before we go into a live demonstration?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm ready. Okay, so the only thing with Facebook that you need to have in order to go through advertising is you have to have a method of payment associated with your account. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have a method of payment associated with your account that you need to, that you'll be charged for an ad. You can come in here and play around with it as much as you want to, just like I'm about to do. And you don't actually get charged for any ads until after people have clicked on them, generally speaking. So I can go through up until the very, very last step of creating an ad, and as long as I get out of there before I hit submit, I don't get charged a thing. So don't hesitate to come in here and play around until you figure stuff out. So there are two ways to get to the Facebook Ads Manager, and the first is right here on the left-hand side of your Facebook page. You may have it set up as a favorite, which I do, or you might not have it set up as a favorite, which is fine. In which case, you'd use your drop-down menu on the top right-hand corner, which is the same we use to access any of the Facebook pages that we manage. And you'll see here you have Create Page, or I'm sorry, you have Create Ad or Manage Ad. We'll use Create Ad because we don't have any ads running right now. But you can also go to Manage Ad, and it will show you your main splash page for Facebook. So I'll actually show you the difference. So bear with me just a moment. If I go to Create Ad, it brought me to the main page to create a new ad. If I go to Manage Ad, it's going to bring me to my my Ads Manager dashboard, which shows me any of the previous campaigns that I have. So if I go into it this way, again, you just hit Create Campaign. So you'll see some of the same verbiage and things like that we've already talked about. So you can see here on the left-hand side we have our campaign objective, our ad set, and our ad. So all of that information, that hierarchy is right there. And this will bring us through step by step. And you'll see we have objectives here, which we've already talked about as well. Boosting your post, promoting a page, sending people to the website, reaching people near your business, raising attendance of your event, and getting people to claim your offer. There are a few here, again, that don't matter: engagement for your app, installs for your app. And then the other tricky one is increasing conversions on your website. This would mean that you'd have to download a pixel on your website. So unless you, for most of the hotels, this wouldn't work because they're working in a corporate setting. So you can't say, hey, Edge representative, can you download this pixel on the Hilton page? They're going to go, no. But if you have your own page and you're working with like WebPageFX or somebody who's built your page, or you have access to it, in that case you can go and download it. The one distinction I'll make here is that if you're using an unpaid promotion and you're sending people to your website, I recommend you shorten your link and do an hourly shortened link because it'll give you much more tracking on the back side. However, here in Facebook ads, if you want to send people to your website, use the full link for your website, which will allow you to see very clearly on both sides where it was converted to. They also often use it as a verification process, so you'd need it to make sure that that goes through. So we're going to go ahead again, boost your post, promote your page, send people to your website. We're going to use send people to your website because that seems like the most reasonable for us. And we're going to use AdLib as an example. So you can pick whichever portion of the page you like. If I were going to reservations, for instance, it's going to bring me to the reservations tab, and awesomely, which I love, your reservations thing is the only thing here. You don't have to worry about anything else. It's right here. Right at the top, so if somebody clicks to make a reservation, they immediately can make a reservation right here. The other nice thing is that here on the events page, if I've got any upcoming events like Easter or whatever the case may be, hopefully all that information is on that one page, so if you want them to learn more, they can. So we're going to use the reservations as an example, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in the URL. And it's loading website details, and this can take a little bit of time. So again, you have the option to put a pixel on your page if you'd like to, so you can track more intense analytics from your website side, but you don't need to, and we're not going to for our purposes here. Then you also have your campaign name, and it shows you, it defaults to the website you're sending people to and website clicks. Well, if you're doing something specifically for Easter, for instance, your overall campaign, you want to make sure that you're clear about it. So Easter 2016 might be my campaign. So this is my first step, setting my overall campaign objective, and it's done. Easy peasy. So you'll see that now it's brought me down to ad set, so I'm selecting my budget and audience and schedule. So this is the next step. And this is where we're going to do all of our targeting. So think about targeting, think about your guest personas when you're doing this targeting, and it doesn't necessarily have to be targeted to only one guest persona, but remember that you can add different, you can create different ad sets for different people that you might be targeting. So over here on the right-hand side, you'll see an audience definition, and this is kind of Facebook's gauge of how you're doing. The number you want to pay attention to right here is your potential reach. So right now, I'm targeting everyone in the United States from 18 to 65. And that's a lot of people. So right now, I have the potential to reach 191 million people, which is probably more people than I need to target. So I'm going to start narrowing this down a little bit. So you can select a few different things. First, it's location and demographics. And I'm going to do, when you do location, you can do things like everyone who is in this location, meaning anybody in that area at all. You can do people who were recently in this location, traveling to the location, or who live in the location. And that can be an important distinction for you to make, especially if you're trying to drive local business. If you're tagging everybody in the location, you might be getting a lot of travelers, especially if you're in a very travel-oriented city, which most of us are. So I'm going to choose people who live in this location. And I'm going to choose a number of different locations. So within the United States, again, it still has me, obviously we have 191 million people, apparently, who are between the ages of 18 and 65 on Facebook who live in the United States. So that really hasn't narrowed me down a whole lot yet. But I'm going to add a few different places. I'm going to choose Harrisburg, which is not how you spell Harrisburg. I'm going to choose Harrisburg. And you can choose people who are within a 25-mile radius or up to a 50-mile radius. And I'm going to choose up to a 50-mile radius. And you can see that that almost brings me out to Philadelphia and Allentown and Baltimore, which is just fine by me. I'm going to do another as well. I'm going to do Hershey, which isn't very far from us. But I'm going to do that within a 50-mile radius as well, because it's going to push that little bubble out just by a little bit farther. So you can see it brought me just a little bit closer to Philadelphia. Let's assume that I have people from the Philadelphia area that visit family in Harrisburg over the holiday season. So I'm also going to choose Philadelphia. There we go. And I'm also going to choose people that live in Allentown. So again, it gives me a 25-mile radius of all of those, and you can see that there's a nice little overlap here, which I like to see, so I'm cool with that. I'm going to just increase Philadelphia just by a little bit so that I get a little bit more of an overlap in that. Let's do the full 50. Why not? Okay, so again, it gives us that nice overlap there. So you can see that my number is now down to 4,900,000 people, which is a little bit more reasonable. My sweet spot is going to be somewhere around 20,000 people. So if I know for this particular ad set, I'm going to be targeting moms or maybe moms and dads, that's going to narrow down a few different age groups. So I'm going to put my age up to 27 and down to, let's say, 50. So you can see that now my number is down to 2,300,000. So a little bit better. If you are in an area where you have a number of different people speaking multiple languages, then you may want to consider limiting the number of languages that you have. So if your ad is only available in English, then obviously you want to choose English. If you are selecting people, if you're marketing to people for quinceañeras, you may choose that it might be more beneficial to post a Spanish-speaking ad, and so you would post the Spanish ad. The Hilton Chicago and Oaklawn has a very strong Portuguese market, so they may decide to do ads in Portuguese that are targeted specifically to Portuguese speakers.
Is that automatically translated, the copy that you write?
It isn't automatically translated, so you would need to ensure that you can provide the translation for it. So if it can be served in multiple languages, then you can do that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Just don't use Google Translate without having somebody read it for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can also do some more detailed targeting, and this is where you do some things like your demographics, interests, behaviors, and more. So if we take a look at demographics, we can choose education, ethnic affinity, specific, baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, life events, or parents. So I'm going to select all parents. So you can choose new parents, parents with toddlers, preschoolers, and this stuff is crazy. So I'm going to do all parents. So that's kind of where I'm going to be. I may also want to choose some other things. So interests, business and industry, fitness and wellness, food and drink, shopping and sports. Now the thing to consider about interests is it's not a completely comprehensive way or guaranteed way to connect with people. The example that I constantly give is I like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, but at no point ever in my whole 10 years now on Facebook have I ever gone through and liked pina coladas or getting caught in the rain, ever, not once. Not even limes or salt. That being said, Facebook has gotten a lot better about the way that you narrow down interests, because it has a lot more to do with the pages and the content that you're consuming. So if I have ever engaged with a page that has anything to do with pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, or rum, or pineapple, frozen pineapple drinks, or tropical things in any way, it may be more likely to tag me as somebody that would be interested. So that's something to consider. Interests can be okay, but you do have you do run the risk of kind of narrowing some people down. But demographics are fantastic. So the other option here is under behaviors. You can do things like automotive, B2B, digital activities, job role, media. Now this information is coming from Facebook as well as Facebook's partners, and that can include everything from your online shopping habits to what mobile device you use, to kind of what things you're consuming while you're online. So it's really crazy to look at. So like as a for instance, if I have travel, it could be all frequent travelers, business travelers, casino vacations, cruises. Now think about this. When you're thinking about partners, you may be like, where are they getting this information from? How many times have you gone to a website and it says sign in or sign in with Facebook, and you selected sign in with Facebook? Probably happens more than once. I know that I do it. I know that I have to do it for my TripAdvisor listing to be able to manage our reviews in TripAdvisor. I also do it for my Yelp listing. I do it for Instagram. I do it for everything. So anytime I'm having activity going on in those other channels, Facebook can then turn around and say, okay, Emily, while she doesn't talk about her business travel on Facebook, checks into every hotel she goes to on TripAdvisor and leaves reviews for them. She checks into every restaurant she goes to on Yelp, so we know that she loves Italian restaurants and sushi places. So this is a really cool and creepy way to break down your behaviors from people. So just a few things to think of. So if I'm right now targeting all parents within these particular areas, and I'm going to get New Jersey out of there, so I'm going to limit my Pennsylvania market a little bit more. So you can see that my reach is now down to 560,000 people, so totally a whole lot better than 191 million people. So while 20K might be my sweet spot, for our purposes, I'm just going to say that I'm okay with my 560,000 people, although I can also narrow that down more if I just want to do women. So again, that brings me down to 350,000. So living in the United States, 27 to 50 females who are parents. So this is my my audience. Any questions about audience before we move on to budget and schedule?
No.
Okay. So these next parts go really, really quickly and are very pretty self-explanatory when you get into them. I just wanted to dive a little bit more deeply into the targeting because that's really, really where you can make some great refinements. Budget's pretty self-explanatory. There are two ways that you can select your budget, daily budget or a lifetime budget. If you're doing a daily budget, again, it would be $20 or $50 or whatever that you want to do per day, or you can do for the lifetime of the ad. One thing to consider with this is that if you, when you do your scheduling, you can either run your ad continuously starting today, meaning it has no end date, or you can select a specific day and time that you want to start and end your ad. So that can help you determine whether you want to do a daily budget or a lifetime budget. So if I'm only running my ad for 5 days, I may want to choose a lifetime budget of $500 as opposed to doing $100 a day, because there may be one day where my post can be served or my ad can be served to more people more effectively. If you take a look here, Facebook allows you to choose your advanced options as well, and I do recommend taking a look at this as well. So you can optimize your ad for delivery, and you want to make sure, this is actually what's recommended, and I also recommend it as well. This determines how Facebook will charge you. So the things that you're looking for, the ways that Facebook will serve your ads are broken down a few different ways. So you'll see it very clearly here. They'll deliver ads to the right people to help you get the most clicks to your ads to the website at the lowest cost. They'll deliver your ads to as many people as many times as possible, and they'll deliver your ads to people up to once a day. So it really depends on what your goal is. For our purposes, clicks to the website will be great because I'm looking for bookings. I'm not worried about brand awareness. I'm not worried about how many people see this. I'm worried about the right people seeing it at the right time. So this is generally what you're going to choose. You can do automatic bid amount, and Facebook will set a bid. So again, you're paying per each click. So they'll set a bid amount that is about average. So there's going to be big conglomerates like Applebee's that are spending a lot of money on clicks, and then there are going to be people who aren't spending really any money, so we'll fall somewhere in the middle. And it's always going to try to go a little bit higher than everybody else by a few cents up to a certain point. And you can select manual as well. When you get charged, there are multiple options here. You can do per impressions, so CPM is per 1,000 impressions. So for every 1,000 people that see your post, you'll get charged, or per link clicks. I recommend doing link clicks. An impression is like page reach or post reach. It just shows you how many times your ad has appeared on somebody's page. Doesn't mean that they've seen it, because you know how fast we can scroll through stuff. It doesn't even mean that they paid attention to what's going on the right-hand side of their Facebook page. It just means that it appeared on somebody's page. So for our purposes, it's beneficial to make sure that we get paid every time somebody clicks on our link. Now, the other option here is you can schedule your ad. So you may be wanting to make sure that you're running your ad on during the mornings when moms are getting the kids ready, or maybe in the evening if you're, or the afternoon through the evening if you're targeting happy hour business. Or again, the morning if you're trying to do brunch or breakfast or anything like that. And then delivery type, which is standard, showing your ads throughout the day, or you can do other things like showing your ads as many times as possible. And what that'll do is Facebook will use your budget up until it's gone. So it's going to use, if you have $20 a day, it's going to continue showing your ads until it's gone. Standard is showing it throughout the day, and they're going to try to make sure that it gets to the right people, which means that Facebook will use up to $20, but they might not use the whole $20. And whatever they don't use, you obviously don't get charged for it. Are there any questions before we continue?
No.
Okay. The last little bit is the ad set name. So again, if I'm targeting local moms. So this is one ad set. My other one may be grandparents. So for now, I'm going to choose that this targeting is for local moms. So I can create a new ad, and there's a few different ways you can do this: single image or video, or multiple images in one ad. And this is a carousel, so it will appear with the selection of images. The same copy and link will go underneath it, different image on the top. There's some cool things you can do with this, like if you have a panoramic photo and you break it up into 5 even parts, you can have one section of that panoramic on each one of those panels, and it makes people more likely to scroll through so they can see the rest of the image. It's also a cool way to be able to saw it done really effectively not long ago, and unfortunately I skipped away from the page before I had gone through and screenshotted everything, so I didn't get a chance to pull it. But I've seen people do it where they use a little bit of text on each one, so it kind of teases you to like go to the next, like scroll over to the next photo to see what else it says. And it's a good way to get around your 20% text ratio. So you just do a word per photo or a little teaser on each photo. So again, you can use your image or your video here, and you would select the Facebook page that you want it attached to. And it's automatically going to choose that based on the website that I chose, so that's just fine by me. It'll also give me the opportunity to see the way that the ad is going to appear, so what it's going to look like on mobile, what it would look like on Instagram if I decided to do that, and what it's going to appear like on my network in the desktop right column as well. So you can choose, again, this is where you would put in your headline and your text, and again, try to stick to 90 characters for this. And then you can select your call to action button as well. Learn more, donate now, contact us, apply now, book now. So these are all the options for a call to action button. And then once set, I can review and place my order. And if I wanted to at any point, I can always either use an existing post or I can create an additional ad. Are there any other questions?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I don't expect you to remember all of it. So again, all of the slides are going to be saved, and this has been recorded, so I'll go through the processing this week, and you'll have it out before the weekend. So to recap, unpaid promotions should always provide value. They should be the highest quality unpaid posts that we do. All of our posts should be high quality, but these ones specifically should have a lot of attention paid to the content that we're putting out, the copy that we're writing, and the call to action that we're requesting of people. Paid ads should have a clear call to action and have no friction points at all. So same thing, you want to make sure they've got good visuals and good copy, but that call to action is going to be very important. And once people click on your ad to book a reservation or to learn more information or to contact you, they better be able to contact you or take action on that call that you've requested of them. And I'll call you out on it, and you'll call each other out on it. So make sure you're paying attention to that very closely. And don't be afraid to use both in combination. So when you got your Valentine's Day promotional information from Greenwood and when you get your Easter information from Greenwood, you'll notice that there are going to be some posts that we put together that are very easy to use as paid promotions. And there are some that you can use as unpaid promotions. So for Valentine's Day, as an example, for the DoubleTree in Charlottesville, just as an example post, I put together in the content machine and also as a visual in Canva, a visual that said romantic getaways in Charlottesville, Virginia, #LoveVA. So it was what you would have put there would have been a list from the local Chamber of Commerce or whatever the case may be of romantic spots in Charlottesville or in the Charlottesville area. And luckily, Virginia has no lack of romantic places. They have wineries, they have beautiful hiking trails in the mountains, they have scenic overlooks, it's just beautiful. So there are a lot of romantic spots. So that provides value for people who are looking for a romantic getaway. Bonus that we have a getaway package. So if you're exploring the Charlottesville area over Valentine's Day, take a look at this great list of places to visit and let us know if you need a room. And you can include your link there. So that is a promotional piece of content. Now, like I said, don't be afraid to use both in combination. So you can always take that and make it a paid promotion, or take a paid promotion and break it out and do a few different unpaid promotions to go along with it. So you may have your paid advertisement for Easter, and you may want to do an unpaid promotion that has your Easter menu, recipe and maybe photos of the Easter bunny or how to dye your Easter eggs or Easter breakfast trends for 2016. There are some recommendations that I have. So at the beginning, and we talk about this stuff all the time, but at the beginning of these, make sure you're setting a very clear goal. That means a yearly goal, quarterly goal, and for each individual campaign, what goals do you have? When you talk about Easter, what is it that you're looking to do? Are you looking to bring in new business? Are you looking to have repeat business? Are you looking to get more reservations on the OpenTable site? Are you looking to get more call reservations? What are your goals? And then target your ads and promotions. And again, this sounds so broken recorders because you hear me talk about it all the time, but really use those guest personas and those diner personas and think about who it is that you're talking to, because that is really going to help you decide how you are crafting your ads, your promotions, and your posts in general. Again, combine paid and unpaid methods for the most impact. The wonderful and sometimes frustrating thing is when you have a paid advertisement and an organic post, and the paid advertisement doesn't perform as well as your organic post. And for me, that's kind of a win. Like, you didn't pay for any of these views and you did outstandingly well. So combining them is the best way to make sure you have the most impact. And then when you're done, make sure you review how you did, so that you have a very clear idea of these are the things we did right, these are the things we want to do differently next time, this was the financial impact that it had for us. Even if you're just testing it out, go back and look at those reports. And just one other quick thing for how to do that. So if I go to close without saving, and it brings me back to my dashboard, any of the ads that I have here will appear with the results. So if I have any other ads, it's going to give me who it was sent to, how much money I spent on it, and you can actually export that information. So for Easter, which is in March, when we have our social media calls in April, just let me know you had that promotion, and we'll go back and pull that information for you. So as a reminder, the slides and minutes will be made available from this call. The training was recorded, and again, you'll have that out probably before the weekend. And then the resources that we touched on, those 4 PDF documents that we reviewed, will also be sent out as well. And that kind of wraps up everything that I had. Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts, or reflections before we wrap up?
I have one kind of dumb question.
It's not dumb at all. What can I do for you, David?
On the ad manager page on that main dashboard, we've got a blue slider thing right there next to Whitney's Oak Lawn survey. Now, I'm looking at that on my page, and I can turn them on and turn them off, but I'm not sure what turning them on and turning them off actually correlates to, if anything.
It just means
is that like the ad itself? I'm keeping it from running while I do that?
It means that the ad itself or that campaign is active or inactive. So if you have multiple ads underneath that and you deactivate it, it will temporarily suspend that ad. So if you have it for a set timeline, let's say I have an ad that I want to run from Monday to Friday, and Saturday I come in here and it's still active, it doesn't mean that that ad is still running. It just means that that campaign is still active. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's also a good way that if you, let's say you come in here and you see that your reach is not where you want it to be, you can pause that ad so that you can go in and make changes, or you can deactivate that campaign if you want to make sure that like nothing else happens with it.
Gotcha.
So that's anything else?
No, ma'am.
No, I'm good.